and if you read this little text, in the beginning he will say, oh, you know, coconut trees are like the trees, São João's tree from Apocalypse. But that's all about, that's all mentioned there about religion. Everything else is agronomy. It's really based on it. He always talks about my experience, and I tried, you know, these samplings from that area and planted it in that other area.
You know, the impression is that after some stage, colonialism got arrogant towards local knowledge.
Exactly.
For the Portuguese,
well, already out of the Palmar, he's saying, I will give you exact prescription of how to succeed in having a lot of fruit, a good harvest. Don't listen to the Indians, they don't know. But you know, he says, you know why they don't know? Because they have only one Palmar.
I see.
Their experience is constrained to one little area. Well, he tested those various trees in various places in Goa. What we can say, this is really scientific agronomy. You know, he is really trying to make experiments and to find the best solution. Okay, if he's saying this is not disparaging Indians, he is just saying local cultivators very often know only their soil. They don't know that maybe importing from another soil can improve,
to shift gears a little. And to move to disputed missions.
Okay.
What's it about? How would you explain it?
Well, the disputed mission was my doctorate that I concluded a long time ago at the University of California at Berkeley, and I was very young. I would have written it differently these years. I know much more, but okay. So what I was looking at in disputed mission is how two Jesuit missionaries who found themselves together in a mission all alone in Madurai. They were not, they were sent by Portuguese Padroada, they were supported by Portuguese Padroada, but they ended being all alone in a mission that was just the two of them, and they were living in what they would describe as heathen kingdom of the Nayak of Madurai. So all around them were Hindus, Muslims, you know, they're basically people.
Which are these two missionaries?
It's Roberto Nobili, Italian aristocrat, and Gonçalo Fernandes Trancoso, who is a Portuguese ex-soldier. I have a whole theory about how Nobili had a kind of aristocratic view of the society. So his idea was that also that the only way to convert Indians is by hitting it or converting first the Brahmins and the Nayaks, you know, the people who count. While Gonçalo Fernandes Trancoso was basically came to Madurai as a priest, as a parish priest of the Parava pearl merchants and pearl divers, the Parava caste of the Paravas who settled as merchants in Madurai. So he had a different view of the things, which is, you know, take care of the caste, of the real Christians and the caste that is already converted. We can, and his basic idea was, we cannot convert the other guys, the Hindus around. And Nobili said, oh no, we can. Yes, we can, by a particular method. He was not the only one to use this method. This method has been already in use by Valignano, by Matteo Ricci in Beijing, and it's called accommodatio. And the method is, we have to learn knowledge. Again, we come back to the question of knowledge. We have to learn about these people. What is their knowledge? What is their philosophy? What are their sciences? And then we have to show them that we are better. That we are better than them, or that we can teach them the ultimate supreme science, which is Christianity. But to do that, they have to trust us and they have to be impressed with us.
Our knowledge.
Yes, we have to impress them. You know, they have to see that we have some superior knowledge in a way. And so he did that.
But what intrigued you in this strange subject from half a world away?
No, but I mean, many things. I wrote this dissertation in 1991, so what did intrigue me then? I was interested in the way in Jesuits. This is the beginning of the revival of Jesuit history, lay Jesuit history, not history by Jesuit historians, but historians. And I belong to, now I know that I belong to a whole wave of, at that time, young historians who were working on Jesuit sources. And I was interested in the way Jesuits were able to precisely accommodate themselves to other nations, to other cultures, not only in India, but in Brazil, in Africa, in Canada, in China, everywhere in the world. They were able, because they were the order that they were, the religious order that they were able to somehow get into the smallest pores of the society. But the idea was, we want to get into your head and then come out of your head with you, yourself coming out of your head.
But in Goa, they are a bit of a controversial and mixed reputation, because on the one hand, they played a big role. They came here early. But then this whole thing of Francis Xavier, pushing for the Inquisition. Of course, no one talks about him pushing for the printing press, for example. But how would you rate that? Because all these guys also came from very...
Goa is a particular place, because it was in the hands of the Portuguese, of secular government. So things were evolving differently. I was just recently, today only, I was reading in the archives that are really shameful archives, but okay. There's still some documents left before they disappear. I was reading, how is it called? A deposition, let's say, of the, well, it is a description of how the Jesuits got the land of the Carambolim Aldea by getting there, and basically they were given, by the Estado, they were given the lands of the pagoda, or of the pagodas, of the idols, of the temples that were before temple lands. They were given the land for the Colegio de Sao Paulo. So religious land was going to new religious. Okay, this is all well known. And the way it was done, this is for me, this is the ultimate this is the first violence. I mean, I'm not talking about physical violence, but the way the Portuguese appropriated the land and the produce of the land and simply redistributed the land is kind of hard to this is a completely different story. The Jesuits had no possessions in Madurai. This was not possible under other rulers. But here in Goa, they were able to become they became landlords, huge landlords. A colleague of mine who was just working in archives with me, she was looking into inventory of Monica's monastery, and she said, my God, those Monicas, they were a bank. So I said, yes, well, everybody knows that Indian temples were banks also. These religious institutions were always banks. They were even lending money. They were lending money. They were also, they were collecting money, but they were lending money. They had lay brothers who were only in charge of finances.
And the second book?
And the second book actually went back in history. The first book, Disputed Mission, was 17th century, and then I realized that I really need to know what happened from the beginning. So the second book is 16th century, Jesuits in Goa, but not only in Goa. And I have a chapter on Francis Xavier. I have my interpretation of his...
It's not easily available in Goa, in India.
The second book, unfortunately, was published in America.
So it costs $2,500?
So it costs $75. It's even too much for me. I cannot buy it anymore. I suggest people steal it, but I don't know. You can't even steal it anymore. There are no bookshops. But you can download it from my website.
I see.
All of it.
I see.
Download it.
And one last word about the archives. What's the state now? How do you find it?
It's a shameful state. And
What is the
if
problem?
Goa doesn't have a history, it's because it doesn't have archives. The problem is that I don't know why this archive is there. Or are they there to preserve documents or to destroy documents? I think they're mostly working on destroying documents. I know that by looking through some documents, I immediately destroyed them. I actually renounced to look at the whole bunch of documents because merely by trying to pull them apart, I would have destroyed them. The people who work there don't know what they are, don't know the treasure. They have no idea how valuable these things are. People are nice. I'm not saying that they are not nice, but the people who work there, especially those guys who are, bringing the peons there.
And also, is there a certain amount of bureaucratization that doesn't allow...
No, it's just that there are very crazy rules. And I don't know who made those rules. And these rules go against reason, and they go against any kind of archival rules today. Like, for example, you cannot digitalize. These documents can be digitalized, but they can only give you a certain amount of it. We historians work on series. We need either the whole document or nothing. So that is one thing. Secondly, they don't allow people to take shots themselves everywhere in modern archives. They allow you without flash, with certain conditions, but you can shoot them. And in that way, they would be preserved. Because as they are today, they're just simply falling apart. They're disappearing. Actually, from the time of Charles Boxer, who wrote an article about the archives. You go back to the archives, those documents don't exist anymore. In the meantime, they have fallen apart.
That was 1980s.
This was 1980s, 1970s. He wrote this article about the archives of certain parts. Some of the documents don't exist anymore. They have simply disappeared, and especially documents on acid paper. 18th, 19th century, forget it. You use it, it falls apart.
I see.
So I don't know who is making those rules. Panjim, rare manuscript department, is equally ridiculous. They did not allow, Central Library. They didn't allow me to get the whole document. They digitalized everything. That's very good. That's very nice. But when I wanted to buy a whole document, because I cannot work on 3 pages of a document, they said, the curator then, this was in 2008, told me that, if we give you everything, then you will not come again. I would come again. I always come back to the archives. But if anybody wants, if I am to do good history, I need my digitalized copies at home. I cannot be in Goa all the time. So I think Goa deserves not to have good history because it doesn't take care of its archives. Something should be done.
Thank you. Thanks.